If you want to retire a millionaire, all you need are two different investment accounts, a Roth IRA and a 401k. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through everything that you need to know about these two different accounts so that you can retire a millionaire. And in this video, we're going to cover what is a Roth IRA and 401k, how taxes work in each account, the pros and cons of each, which is better, how to get started, and I'm going to show you my personal Roth IRA and 401k to show you this in practice. Every section is timestamped below in case you need to go back, but to not waste any time, let's start off with the basics. What is a Roth IRA and 401k? So let me start this video off by explaining exactly what these two accounts are. Both the Roth IRA and 401k are retirement investing accounts. Both offer tax advantages. The Roth IRA you open on your own, whereas the 401k you get through your employer. In the Roth IRA, contributions are post-tax and withdrawals are tax-free, whereas the 401k, contributions are pre-taxed and withdrawals are taxed. Now, the biggest difference between these two accounts is how they get taxed. And so in order to utilize them to the fullest, it's very important that you understand how they get taxed. And so let's break that down in the next section. How taxes work in each account. Now, in order to help you understand how these different accounts get taxed, I'm going to give you a visual of how it works, starting with the Roth IRA. Let's say you work at a job and your employer pays you $5,000 a month. Before they pay you, they will withhold your taxes, let's say 20%, and then you get the remainder, $4,000. This is post-tax money because the government has already taken their cut, and you can use this money to contribute to a Roth IRA. And over time, that money will grow. And by the time you retire, all the gains you earned will be tax-free. The Roth IRA, in my opinion, for the average person, is the best of the two retirement accounts. Because say you have invested $25,000 by the age of 30 in your Roth IRA. Upon retirement, that might grow to $267,000, gaining $242,000 in interest. And that amount is completely tax-free. The Roth IRA is the most tax advantageous account of the two, so much so that the IRS sets limits on how much you can contribute each year. In 2025, the contribution limit for an individual under 50 is $7,000, and for an individual over 50, it is $8,000. And if you make over $165,000 a year, you're not allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA. So now that we understand how the Roth IRA works, let's see how the 401k gets taxed, which is basically the opposite. Now, before I begin, I do need to mention that there are two different types of 401ks. The traditional 401k and the Roth 401k. But in this video, we're only going to focus on the traditional 401k, as that is the more common out of the two. So let's see how taxes work with the traditional 401k. Like before, let's say you work at a job and make $5,000 a month. This time, before your company withholds taxes, you decide that you want to contribute 5% of your salary to your 401k. So your employer will take out 5% or $250 and put it in your 401k. Then that remainder, $4,750, will then be taxed again at 20%. And then you get the remainder of $3,800. And over time, your 401k will grow. However, this time, once you reach retirement age and start to withdraw, that money will be taxed as income. And the thing that is most desirable about the traditional 401k is something called the employer match. And this is how it works. Say your employer offers a 401k match of 5%. That means if you contribute 5% of your salary, or $250, then they will also contribute 5% of your salary. And this is basically your company giving you free money. Because let's say you make $100,000 a year and your company has a 5% match. They are basically giving you 5% extra a year if you contribute to your 401k. However, if you don't contribute, then you are just leaving that money on the table. And just like the Roth IRA, the IRS puts limits on how much you can contribute to these accounts. In 2025, the contribution limit for an individual under 50 is $23,500, and for an individual over 50, it is $31,000. However, unlike the Roth, the 401k does not have any income limits. And so to summarize this in the most simple terms, with a Roth IRA, you pay taxes now, but nothing later. And with a 401k, you save on taxes now, but pay taxes later. So now that we understand the difference between these two accounts, let's now talk about the pros and cons of the Roth IRA and 401k. So both the Roth IRA and 401k come with pros and cons, some of which we have already discussed at this point in the video. However, let's discuss them a little bit more in detail, starting with the Roth IRA. The pros include tax-free growth. By retirement, you're not required to withdraw a certain amount. You can withdraw contributions tax-free at any time. Because you get to choose your broker, you generally have better and more investment options. And it's not tied to your employer. The cons include a lower contribution limit, and there are some income limits. All in all, the Roth IRA is the holy grail of retirement accounts. And so now let's talk about the pros and cons of the 401k. The pros include you can contribute tax-free. There is a higher contribution limit. It lowers your taxable income. As we spoke about, there's often an employer match, and your employer automatically deducts the money from your paycheck, making it easy. The cons include withdrawals at retirement are taxed as income. Because your employer chooses your provider, your investment options could be limited. At 73, you're required to begin withdrawing some money. And if you withdraw contributions before retirement age, you will face penalties. So now that we discussed the pros and cons of each account, let's now move on to the next section and talk about which is better. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to which of these accounts is better, and ideally, you're going to want both of them. But let me share two quick examples of how these accounts can be used strategically, starting with the Roth IRA. Let's imagine a 25-year-old who makes $45,000 a year. They are in a pretty low tax bracket, so it makes sense for them to prioritize the Roth IRA because they don't need an immediate tax break and have tons of time for their money to grow. And investing more in their Roth IRA would allow their money to grow more tax-free. When you're making an average income, you don't have to try as hard to avoid taxes. However, with the 401k, let's imagine a 40-year-old who makes $140,000 a year. Their tax rate is much higher, so they might want to contribute more to their 401k to reduce their taxable income today. However, as I said, at some point you are going to have to pay taxes. And in the end, would you rather have a 401k that gained $1 million in interest that you have to pay income taxes on, or a Roth IRA that gained $850,000 that you don't have to pay taxes on? Now, I am not a financial advisor, and none of this is financial advice because we're all in different life situations, and what works for me in my life might not work for you in your life. But in general, for most people, the rule of thumb when it comes to a strategy is this. First, do the maximum 401k match with your employer. If they match 5%, then you contribute 5%, so you don't leave any money on the table. Second, focus on maxing out your Roth IRA, so more of your money can grow tax-free. And third, if you max that out, then go back to your 401k and focus on maxing that out. And if you don't know what's best for you, it's best to speak to a tax professional, as they can give you advice on your own specific situation. And so now that we understand these two accounts, let's now move on to the next section and talk about how to get started. Hopefully at this point in the video, I have explained this topic well enough that you are starting to understand these two accounts. And so now, let's talk about how you open these accounts, which is actually extremely simple. Starting with the Roth IRA. To open a Roth IRA, you simply have to go to a brokerage. The most common ones are Charles Schwab, Fidelity, and Vanguard, and request to open a Roth IRA. Once you have done that, you can then transfer money to your Roth IRA and start investing that money. And I will also include links to all these brokerages in the descriptions in case you want to check them out, all of which are great. And if you want to see my own investment strategy, you can watch this video next, which I'll also include in the description. So that is how you open up a Roth IRA. Now, opening a 401k is a bit different because it comes through your employer. To open a 401k, you first have to go to your employer and ask if they offer a 401k plan. If you work for the government or a nonprofit, it will be called a 403b. Next, ask them to open one for you. And finally, decide how much you want to contribute each paycheck and choose your investments. And that is all you have to do. Now, we have covered a lot in this video up to this point, and I think that what will be most helpful for you is to show you my 401k and Roth IRA, to show you how all this works in practice. And so let's do that in the final section, my Roth IRA and 401k. If you're a beginner watching this, it all might sound very complicated. However, the truth is, once you get going, it's actually incredibly easy. And so let me show you my account so you can see how this all works in practice, starting with my Roth IRA, which is held at the brokerage Charles Schwab. So this is my Roth IRA. As you see, it currently has about $29,000 invested. $20,000 has come from my contributions, and $6,000 has come from interest gained. The entire portfolio is invested with the Schwab S&P 500 Index Fund, SWPPX. And when we look at my transactions, as you see, every now and then, I will contribute $200 here, $300 there, as well as get my credit card reward points deposited in this account, all that immediately get invested in index funds. And last year, I contributed the full $7,000, and so far this year, I have contributed $4,500. And very quickly, I just want to give you a live example on how I buy investments for my Roth IRA. And this is going to look different depending on what brokerage you choose, but this is what it's going to look like on Charles Schwab. So at the top here, I will click Trade and then All-in-One Trade Ticket, which will take me here. And then I will choose my account, which I'm choosing my Roth IRA. And as you see, I have $100 in this account. The next thing I'll do is put in the ticker symbol that I invest with, which is SWPPX. Then I will click Select Action, Buy, put in $100, and then Review Order and Place Order. And I have just contributed $100 more to my Roth IRA and invested that money. It is that simple to do. And so now let's take a look at my 401k, which was with my last job that I'm no longer working with and is held at TIA. As you see, this account has about $25,000 in it, all of which is invested in the State Street Index Fund. Now, let me stop right here and say that this is a live example of one of the cons of a 401k that we discussed. This index fund I'm invested with cost me a bit more in comparison to my Schwab one, because TIA has a lot less options to choose from. And so next, I want to show you my match at my last job. And so at my last job, I had a very good match. If I contributed 2%, then they'd contribute 10%. Which is a very good match. And so when we look at this, you see that for the match, I contributed $2,800 and my employer contributed about $14,000, which we spoke about before is all free money. And I also contributed about $8,000 more on top of that. And that is it. That is what you need to know about a 401k and a Roth IRA. I hope this video helped you understand these two different accounts better and it's given you more confidence to put them into practice. If it did, let me know in the comments. And if you're looking at what to invest in, give this video a watch next, which will show you a step-by-step video of my own investment strategy. Thank you so much for watching, and with that, muchas gracias. Que tenga un buen día. Nos vemos, chicos.